Hello and welcome to episode 14 of Let's Play Planet Coaster Project Globe Explorer here on Theme Park Worldwide. I'm Sean Sandbrook, and in this episode we're going to be continuing with this New York section of the park. Straight in there then, of course, we've got the Giga Coaster there that we put in the last episode. Straight in by putting in a drop tower. I thought this would be the perfect location for that, and before I put in the paths, all the buildings and theming into this area, I thought let's go straight in and put in a drop tower. But then I thought, you know what, let's not just have the one style of drop ride, let's go for the first dark ride inside this park as well. Of course, I've left spaces around the park for dark rides, but I've not yet built one. This is going to be the first one. It's going to be one of the multi-drop elevator rides, very similar to the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. It's that style ride system. You have seen that at the Disney parks, and that's going to go in there as well, except the two very different drop experiences here with what you've got. I mean, you've got one that's very tall outdoor drop tower. You'll get great views across the area and the rest of the park. This one's smaller, but it's going to be indoors. There'll just be some opening doors at the top that look out over the lake and the rest of the park, but in general it'll be various different scenes that will all be themed all around the storyline that we're going to create for this. Something to do with an elevator in some sort of skyscraper. That's the story that I want to go with that one. Something a little bit different, maybe like you're on some sort of mission. That's kind of what I'm thinking with that one. Anyway, the area itself, of course, we've got that huge Giga Coaster over at the back that looks absolutely fantastic. However, the supports are a mess. And I did say in the last episode, we're going to come back to that and do some custom supports. That's exactly what I'm going to be doing later in this episode, right towards the end. We're going to be working on the supports for that Giga Coaster to make them look a lot better than how they do at the moment, because quite frankly, it looks very, very unrealistic. Unfortunately, Planet Coaster is not the best when it comes to supports. However, at least you do get the option to turn the supports off, and that's what I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to be working on a lot of the supports later on in the episode, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, as you can see by the title, going to be doing quite a lot of infrastructure work here as well with the area. I've started off with this dark ride, but I'm not going to be finishing it in this episode. That's going to be in the next episode, number 15, where we work on that. It's more just I wanted to put it in to work on all these different New York buildings and skyscrapers all around the side, just to sort of see how that was all going to work out. And as we can see so far, it's starting to come together quite nicely. So this area is going to be packed full of buildings. Of course, going to have lots of different skyscrapers, but also some smaller buildings as well. And I also plan on actually adding Central Park into here as well. I feel like that'll work really well, just off to the left of where I'm building now. And that'll be what we'll be working on in episode 15, sort of putting that in there. However, I am going to install the different rides that will make up that section later on in the episode, so stay tuned for that. You can see the elevator ride just working there, so you can see a bit of that, how that's going to work. If you didn't see my Studios series that I did, I'd definitely recommend checking it out. The Studios park, because we built one of these, and yeah, it fit in really nicely into that park. It was actually, I did two of them next to each other, so it was a bigger building. With this, I'm just going for the single one, mainly because we've got a lot of other rides backing it up. That Studios park wasn't really heavily focused on lots of rides, whereas this park has got a lot of different rides in there, so we don't really need to think as much about capacity with this one. And of course, we've got the other drop ride, which is outside just near it as well, that will all form part of the same themed area, all based around New York. Now, in terms of name suggestions, I know quite a few people already have been starting to put a few down there. In terms of names, I would prefer it if you just wait until the next episode until you start commenting with your names. But by all means, come up with some suggestions in your head and maybe even write them down, but refrain from commenting them for now, because I do want you to sort of see how the area is going to progress other buildings wise and things first before you do select a name. However, I do really appreciate the fact you're all very eager to get your names and different stories for these rides, but yeah, please just wait a little bit until the next episode until you put them down, because obviously it makes it a lot easier when I'm going through the different names, having them all on one video. So I look forward to reading those in the next episode. You can see that I've put like the concrete panels in. That's basically where we're going to build some scenes. You got a little look from inside the elevator there. We're going to build some scenes, of course, that will all reflect the ride itself. Now, I'm doing a bit of an experiment now. I'm starting to put in some of the different skyscrapers around this frontage. Of course, I am going to be doing custom supports later on in the episode, so I may need to move some of these buildings and stuff. It's more just, I wanted to put them in first to see where, you know, how it was going to look with custom supports, because you don't know. At the moment, it looks very full. I could, you know, not put anything in yet buildings-wise, do the custom supports, and then it could look, it might not have the, I might not have the inspiration, you know, to go forward with it how I want to. So that was my plan here. I thought, you know what, I'm going to put the buildings in. Worst case scenario, I can move them across if I need to. The plan is to actually run some of the supports into buildings as well to kind of hide them, but I didn't want to do that with all the supports. Doing a bit more infrastructure work there now. You can see we've got a square. That's the plan to have as the entrance area to the queue line for the huge Giga Coaster. Along with that, we've got a bit of a square going on there as well. Putting in a building just here. I wanted to look like some sort of New York fire station. I thought that'd fit in quite nicely there. So I'm using the fire station brick walls. I'm pretty sure they're from the Ghostbusters DLC that Planet Coaster released. But yeah, you know, in terms of other DLCs, it doesn't look like anything else is going to be coming out, does it really? I mean, it's been a long time now since anything has been released for Planet Coaster. So of course, Frontier, the developers behind the game, they released Planet Zoo. I've still not had a chance to check it out. I've not had the time. Of course, I'm making lots of other videos, daily content here on the channel. Got a lot of other things going on in life as well. So it's one of them things I just don't have the time for Planet Zoo. By all means, when I finish this Planet Coaster series, I may have a little look at the game. So far, I've not even played it. I've not even bought the game, actually. I've not, like, really had a look at it. Some friends have got it, and I've seen theirs, but myself, I've not got it yet, and I've not had a little play with it. So it's one of those that I'm going to wait for now, because I've just not got the time. I really want to commit time to it when it does, when I do decide to get it. But the fact that we've not really had any DLC for Planet Coaster makes me think, could we be seeing a Planet Coaster 2 in development? I mean, it could be something what they're looking at. I mean, they've certainly hinted towards doing a sort of follow-up to the game in the future. We know it's already coming out on consoles at some point this year, which is good for those people who want to play it on consoles. I mean, I spoke about that earlier in the series, just saying about it, and then like Planet Coaster, they announced it was happening, so which is fantastic. It means it's opening the game up to more people to be able to play it, and of course make some great creations. As you can see here then, just putting in a few trees around there. Again, some of these might need to be moved, but it's more just a matter of testing the waters just to see how it goes. This path, what I'm putting in here, is going to be part of the Central Park area. I was quite happy because putting in some of them there did delete some of the supports, even though I'm going to be cancelling all them ones off there on that camelback. You know, it was a relief just to see it with less supports. It's way too over supported. That's what I'd love to see if they do a Planet Coaster 2. Work out the supports, the best options for those, because some of the coasters, the supports look ridiculous, and really a lot of people haven't got the time to start doing custom supports. It takes a long time. I am going to do it for this because I think it needs it. It's the big signature ride for this park, and plus I've never done custom supports before in any of the series, so it kind of shows you and gives you a bit of an idea on how you can do it. Someone commented on the last episode and said that crossing over the water looks like it's a perfect place for a Brooklyn Bridge. That's exactly what I'm planning to do. Put in Brooklyn Bridge there. I'm moving the path just so we've got a bit of leeway either side, but that'll be something that I'll work on. I mean, this area is huge. You know, you've got to think there's a lot of work to go into this area, so it's going to span probably over 4 episodes, I'd imagine. This is already the 2nd episode, but I imagine that'll span over 4. Here we go then, starting work on another coaster now. This is a junior coaster, and this is going to be right in the middle of Central Park. Now, I know that Central Park in New York doesn't actually have a coaster. It does have a carousel though. There's a few different carousels throughout New York actually, so I might look at putting one of them in at some point, but we've already got a carousel down in our Great Britain area, so we'll see with that one. I could always add it in a little bit later on nearer the bridge, because there is a carousel near Brooklyn Bridge actually, over around the Dumbo area around New York. I mean, a fantastic round there. I also said in the last episode that New York isn't really an island, when I believe it is, from a lot of people commenting. You do look on a Google map, and yeah, you can see actually it is an island. There's a small river that sort of does separate it. I was under the impression that it was more of a peninsula, as other people said. I was there like describing it in the last episode, like, oh, is it you know, it's like an island but it's got 3 sides, and it's connected at one. There you go, it's a peninsula. It's a big word for me. I'm not very clever, you know what I'm like. But yeah, with this junior coaster, we'll go for a ride on it, and of course in a minute, but just putting that together now. See it coming off the top of the lift hill there, just banking to the right, bit of an airtime hill back underneath that section. We'll put a bit of water under it as well. Yeah, it's like some sort of Central Park little roller coaster. We needed a junior coaster at this park quite drastically. There's a lot of big coasters now and a lot of thrilling flat rides, but there's quite a lot of family flat rides and kids rides, but there wasn't a family coaster, so I thought this was needed, and I think we'll need like a step up from this at some point as well. Maybe a water coaster, because you got to think at the moment it's very much like we've got this small coaster here, and then the next step up's quite large, so we need to think of something for the middle, and I think a water coaster might fill that gap quite nicely. But yeah, as you can see, just making it round to the brake run there, quite a short layout. It would be a Vekoma, looking at the track style there, even though it's got like the Zero Tivoli style trains on it. You know, I'd say that's more of a Vekoma design really for this one, what I've gone with in terms of the layout for it. I'll head round into the brakes there. We'll get this running 2 trains, so it'll have quite a good capacity to eat people. Of course, we need it. I mean, you know, you've got to think we're going to have the coaster just behind it, the Giga Coaster, that'll eat up 3 trains worth of people. And of course, it means that we've got a little junior coaster there as well, along with the 2 drop rides. That's already 4 rides in this area, and I've not even put any flat rides in yet. You'll see them shortly. But yeah, in a moment we'll go for a little ride on the coaster so you can see that in action. But the idea is with theming around this, with it being Central Park, it's a big sort of area with all trees and nice landscaping and buildings. We're going to keep it quite minimal. Some planting, maybe a conservatory, do the station quite nice as well, just so it all kind of fits in with the Central Park sort of vibe. And we'll put some trees around it, and then you'll have the skyline behind it, so to speak, you know, with all of the buildings, what we're putting in, the skyscrapers, and I think it'll fit together really nicely actually, and it should be a very nice addition to this park. I mean, it's very different to anything I've built before. I've never done skyscrapers or like a city. I've always gone for more beautiful landscapes instead of, you know, like more sort of natural things more than man-made. So yeah, it's going to be very different with this one. Here we go then, let's go for a ride on the junior coaster just here, heading up the lift hill as we can see. You'll get some really nice views actually all throughout the park, and looking out to the lake on the right there, down that drop just there as well. There we are. Of course, we're at the front of the train, so it's the speed that you know, isn't going to be that intense, but we don't want it to be. It's a little family coaster at the end of the day. Great view there looking towards the skyscrapers, really like that. And of course making our way over that airtime hill, bank to the right, and then straight round, down a little bit and into the brake run. But anyway, I'll leave you over the next few minutes as I continue with this park, and you're going to see now some of the other rides that are going to be joining the lineup here, and then I'll come back to you in a couple of minutes and talk more about them and why I chose them for this park. Okay then, so you've seen over the past few minutes there how I've put in a few more different rides. Starting off then with the little balloon ride, what will be part of my Central Park area of New York. And yeah, I thought that'd be a really nice fit in there, nice family ride next to a little family coaster. I thought that'd be a perfect ride to go in there. Also, from on ride, you get some great views looking over towards the Giga Coaster. Along with that, I then put in an air race. I thought that would be a really nice addition in there, Zamperla Air Race. So you can see that slotted in nicely because it's got all the skyscraper theming. I mean, you know me with Planet Coaster. I really love the game and everything, but there's a couple of bits that I'm not as keen on, and that's the fact that some of the flat rides sort of have to be put in that area unless you do loads and loads of custom scenery to try and cover it, but it still doesn't look as realistic. So I thought, perfect, put this air race in here. I've not got any in my other parks because I couldn't really, because of all the theming that comes with it, like pre-installed. So yeah, that fits in really nicely opposite some of the skyscrapers. Along with that, I then put in the Cube, which is a very modern ride. I've been on one of those before at a park, and I thought, you know what? I thought it'd fit in really well, quite a modern ride. It'll slot in nicely on the sort of edge between Central Park and the rest of the city, and of course, Brooklyn Bridge that'll be going in there as well. So, all that's come together really nicely. And as you can see now, finally, it's time to sort out them horrible supports on the Giga. So this is a massive job, and this actually took a couple of hours to do. Now, of course, there's a lot of copy and pasting and things, what I've done here, but there's also some bits where I just manually put in every support and just kept dragging them down, mainly because I wanted to make sure that some of them went into some of the buildings and were hidden. At this point, I also had to move a few of the buildings so they could slot in together nicely. But yeah, overall, I looked at some of the lift hills on other Giga coasters. I looked at the likes of Leviathan, Fury 325, and I thought, let's look at those and see how they look support-wise. Also looked at some various different hyper coasters like Silver Star, Shambhala, and looked at them and thought, right, yeah, okay, some of them were older rides. How can we do it? And the thing is with this, yes, it's a Giga Coaster with height, but it's certainly got more of a hyper layout in terms of it's more about the airtime. There's a bit of banking and stuff, and some of that will be changing soon, as you'll see in the episode. But yeah, I thought, you know what, it's more about, I wanted the height, but also the elements that you get on a hyper coaster. A lot of people have commented saying, it's an interesting layout for a Giga Coaster. A lot of Giga, I said then, didn't I? Giga Coaster. An interesting layout for. Also, the mid-course brake run is certainly interesting because they'd normally just have a longer sort of brake run at the end. But yeah, you got to think, I like to do things a bit different. I'm not an expert coaster builder. I never have been and never claimed to be, and I probably never will be. I'm more about the experience of it. But I definitely wanted to do the custom supports, and I definitely wanted to change a couple of the parts of the layout just to reflect that. Only minimal changes, just mainly a bit more banking. After watching it a few more times on ride, I thought, yeah, there's a couple of bits where it needs a little bit more banking, and I may change some more bits towards the end, but that might happen in the future, in a future episode when I'm working more down to the right of where I am now, actually. At the moment, it's just a matter of doing them supports. So lots of different types of supports that I'm going in here, mainly 3 different types that I've gone for. And yeah, I think it's looking a lot better already. That's the great thing with this game. At least you can delete the supports and keep the track, and you can make it look a lot more realistic. As you can see here, I'm putting in the cross part now. We've got the main support that starts from the top and spreads out in like an upside down V shape, and then we're putting in that bar across now as well. It looks much more realistic. Of course, a lot of Giga coasters, again, some of those that I mentioned just, don't really have a lot of supports on the lift hill, maybe 3 or 4 supports, and at the top it's unsupported, which is a real modern sort of feature that I wanted to bring into this ride as well. That support there, of course, that we've curved over, that's for more towards the bottom of the drop, kind of like 2/3 of the way down. You'll see that I keep raising that up in just a moment just to get that right and make sure that drop sits in exactly just how I wanted it to. But yeah, these look much better than they did before. The buildings cover some of them up quite nicely as well. Like this one, for example, it goes straight into the building. No need to actually carry on with that support because you're not going to see it. It's hidden in the building. And we don't need to put that in. You can see here, just making sure that they all slot together nicely around the rest of the layout as it makes its way back there. The good thing is, though, with Planet Coaster, you know, at least this is an option, which is good. And also the fact that, as well, they've got a wide selection of fat and thin supports that you can use for this one, depending on what you wanted to use them for. Some are much wider than others, different heights as well. Of course, you can just extend them anyway, like I am doing here. And you got the bases, like I'm just adding on there as well. So, you know, you can't really tell that much that when you've changed them, but I tell you what, it can look so much better. As you can see then here, I'm changing a bit of the banking now because we come out of that ampersand, that turnaround section that starts to bring the train back towards the station area. But I thought, you know what, some of that banking really needs changing. Then I looked at the airtime hill there, the camelback, and I thought, right, I'm going to completely demolish it and I'm going to rebuild that up and just give it more of a curved structure, because I looked at it and thought it was a bit too wide. I wanted to make it a bit more curvy, so that was exactly what I'm doing here, to bring a bit more curve to it. It's just a bit steeper then on the uphill, and then the actual moment of airtime, and then heading down the drop. So I just thought that works a lot better. I thought I'd do that before putting in there's a custom supports on there, which I'll work on next, and then you'll follow in that. You'll just see me work on the large hill there, of course. That's the first hill on the ride after the first drop. We sort out those supports. In terms of the one on the ampersand, the turnaround section, I don't actually change them at the moment. I may do in the future, but to be honest, I don't think they look too bad. I think they actually look quite realistic in some areas. I looked at it compared to Shambhala, the hypercoaster from B&M that's got an ampersand, and to be honest, that's got a lot of supports as well. So as much as the support structure would more come from the inside if it was a bit more realistic, I don't think I'm going to touch that, or at least at the moment. I'm going to leave it for now, and I may work on it when I work on the area that's going to be in front of that, because that isn't going to be part of the New York area over that side. As I mentioned in episode 13, we're looking at another country to actually go in front of that. But yeah, just working on the ones there on the airtime hill, so much more realistic. It looks loads better than it did before. By all means, yeah, you could spend hours and hours doing these supports. I didn't. I spent a couple of hours to do what I've done here. But yeah, it's like, you spend as little or as long as you want on them, really. You could just take a couple of supports out if you wanted to, and just replace a few, or you can do the whole lot like I have done here with the various different parts that I've removed. But yeah, it's coming together really nicely. I can't believe it already. We're near the end of another episode, but at this park, I'm so pleased with how it's coming together. And now we've got this back area that's really been worked on. Like I say, we're going to open the park after this. We're going to see how it goes. Then I'm going to look at building a hotel, because that's all going to be part of it. It's a full resort, this, and I'm probably not going to be able to complete this realistically with the FPS and everything. You know, but I'm sure there's people out there who will be able to, and they'll be able to add more to it. But the good thing is the park itself is looking really good. Originally I wanted to do just 5 countries. I've got to that stage now. We'll see how everything is after the New York area, really, and sort of see from there, hopefully add some more in, and go from there really with it. But yeah, you just see working on some more of the supports here, just to get those right. We've got these final few camelbacks now, where it makes its way down towards the mid-course brake run. That's not really a mid-course brake run because it's not in the middle of the track, is it? It's right near the end of the layout, but still called the mid-course brake run. As you can see here, I'm just putting in some of the single supports as well. Don't always need to add a secondary one on them, but some of them I'm just putting like one bar going down the side as well, instead of it being like an upside down V shape. Really nice overview there, gives you a good idea just on how that all looks, really. And of course, we've reached the end of the episode, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed episode 14 of Project Globe Explorer here on Theme Park Worldwide. I'll be back soon with another episode. I am out in California at the moment, so it will be just over a week before the next one. It won't be within the week. We're probably looking about a week and a half until the next episode comes online, so bear with me with that one. But like I say, I never want to rush this. I always want to put up my full effort and quality, put it together, and I look forward to revealing that episode with you all in about a week and a half's time. I'm Sean Sandbrook, thanks for watching. That means it's time to cue those credits. See you all soon.